Hello. Today we're going to dive into chest to bar pull-ups, specifically butterfly, and go for a few common things that people usually don't get quite right, a few prerequisites. If you've not quite got them yet, we'll briefly touch on them first, and then some ways I would suggest that you progress them before kind of moving to the next level. So. If you haven't got butterfly chest to bar pull-ups yet, here's a quick list of some prerequisites I'd suggest that you have. Some key ones I'm going to highlight: strict chest to bar pull-ups. If you haven't got the strength through that end range of motion at the top of a strict pull-up, so that position between what your strict pull-up is and actually getting your chest to the bar. If you don't have the strength there, obviously it's going to be harder to get your chest to the bar even when kipping. So that's the first thing. Ideally, we should be able to do 10 strict butterfly circles. So that's just kind of keeping the rhythm, just using your upper body and your shoulders. So ideally, we're able to do that. Unbroken hollow and arch rocks, your basic core work. You should be able to do 20 of those unbroken with good form. So one thing to be able to, say that you're doing a hollow rock, but can you keep your low back down the floor the whole time, as an example? So yeah, those are the kind of prerequisites I would suggest that you have before attempting to do butterfly chest to bar pull-ups. Now, once you've got those, level one, I'd say, is, aim for 10 to 20 unbroken butterfly circles. By that I mean kind of kipping, so being able to use your lower body as well. Ideally, you can do towards that upper end, so closer to 20. Once you've got to 20, or close to 20, that's when I would suggest going up a level. Okay, so then try and do unbroken butterfly pull-ups. Again, aiming for that top end, that 15 to 20 number ideally. The idea of that is that it means you're able to keep the rhythm. So what a lot of people tend to do is rush, trying to get the chest to the bar before they're kind of ready, and they end up losing the rhythm very quickly within the first 3 to 5 reps, and then it's a case where actually you're not able to practice keeping that rhythm for a longer period of time. So you might be able to quickly jump towards being able to do 3 to 5 butterfly chest to bar pull-ups, but then you're stuck and you can't get any further. Well, it's a case where, right, just come back down a level, make sure you can do closer to 10, 15, 20 unbroken butterfly pull-ups. Let's build that up first, and then look to build the height up, so while still being able to keep the rhythm. So you can go from level to level to level within the same sets. Okay, so you're kind of practicing how much height you're able to put into your reps and how much power to be able to put into your kip, to be able to kind of go up to the next level. So that's a good kind of way to bridge the gap between levels, is practicing going from circle to pull up to chest to bar pull up within the same set. Okay, so that's something we regularly get athletes to do that follow our gymnastic biases. Right, can you go through the different levels? Can you practice actually just doing one level as well for those reps that I've stipulated there, or can we look to build that up before we, like I say, jump up to that next level? Because ideally, when we get some broken butterfly chest to bar pull-ups, we can get close to hitting 10 on your first couple of goes, because you've got the prerequisites. You're able to keep that rhythm, okay, which is key. So once you've got chest to bar pull-ups, butterfly chest to bar pull-ups, there's actually a few things. These apply to if you're trying to master them or if you do have them. The first thing that a lot of people get wrong is the hand width. So a really simple one, which we're going to look at in a second, and then the other two things we're going to touch on, and there's probably going to be a fourth, is rhythm. So like we've mentioned there, can you keep your rhythm, and making sure that you brush the bar and don't hit the bar. So we're going to look at Philroy and Ella do some sets of butterfly chest to bar pull-ups. So you can see here in this first video, Philroy is roughly at shoulder width, okay? So being shoulder width for his chest to bar pull-up, so roughly around there. It's probably still a little too narrow to start off with. It allows him to kind of easily come through. So when I say easily come through, he's able to come down in front of the bar and have plenty of space to give him to come down in front of the bar, like I say, mechanically is able to do it. So a really good starting place is jumping up to the bar and having 90 degrees at your angle at your elbow, and then looking to play from there. You'll see on his next set, he's still able to do the reps, but it's a little bit harder. And obviously with having your hands narrower, you've got extra range of motion to cover. So a really good way to just give you a good starting guide for where to have your hands on chest to bar pull-ups is, right, if you pull up so that your head's just below the bar and you got roughly 90 degrees at your elbow, is there a 90-degree angle at your elbow? Okay, you can see here, Phil Roy's a little bit too narrow, so again, drop down. I'm going to get him to jump back up, a little bit wider, pull up again. It's pretty close, but he still needs to go a little bit wider, so he's going into that half pull-up position again, and this is kind of a good starting place for a winged pull-up. So yeah, on this last one, probably needs to pull up a little bit higher, but he's pretty much at that 90-degree angle. So that's kind of the starting hand position to get most people to begin with, and then they can adjust from there. So obviously if you go narrower than that, you've got more range of motion to cover, because you have to pull further, because obviously your arms, there's a longer distance between your hand and your chest, whereas if you go wider, there's a shorter distance. Obviously, if you go wider with your hands, like I say, there is a shorter range of motion to cover. It's quite good if you want to speed up your rep speed, or your cycle rate, but more taxing on your grip. Whereas a narrower hand width can be more taxing on, your back and your lats, because you've got to pull more. All right. So yeah, because that extra range of motion relies a little bit more on your pulling muscles rather than just the kip. So yeah, that's where I would suggest that you start off with your hand width, and then look to play around from there and see what works best for you. So for Phil Roy, it's going just a little bit narrower than that position. You can see he keeps his rhythm really nicely there. Like I say, if he goes a bit narrower, he might tactically do that in a workout to save his grip a little bit more and put it more in his pulling muscles. So if there's other grippy bits in there, like dumbbell farmer's grip walking lunges, he might decide to go for this narrower grip to save his grip a little bit more, as an example. Okay, so just worth playing around with those different grips. So starting position should be roughly 90-degree angle at your elbow, then play around from there. So the second thing is just being able to keep your rhythm. Okay, so on this, we've got Phil Roy start with small circles. So he's going to build the height up as he goes through the set. So notice when he kind of kicks through here, he's more or less in a hollow position, not quite, but more or less so. His feet stay in front pretty much all the way until he starts to kind of pull a little bit more towards the bar. Okay, so as his feet start to come behind, his upper body starts to come in front. Okay. To gain more height, he just keeps his arms straighter for longer. So he's starting to get a little bit more height now. His chin's starting to get more above the bar, so he's kept his arms straighter for longer, which means those circles get bigger and bigger, okay, which gives him more height, all right? So he's starting to get his chest to hit the bar now. Okay, so to give you a rough guide, let's just go back to the start of him doing these sets. So really small circles. So to get higher, kicks through a little bit more and a little bit more powerfully, and keeps his arms straighter for longer, which means he can gain more height. Okay, when he gets to roughly nipple high with a bar, that's when he's looking to pull through and come into this arch. Notice he doesn't overarch though too much. Okay, he kind of keeps, if I was getting him to do an arch rock, he's got like a nice arch rock position here. And as he's coming down and through in front of the bar, his legs, come back. And before he hits full extension with his arms at the bottom, he kicks through into that next rep, which means he can keep that rhythm really, really nicely. Okay, and his chest just brushes the bar. So on these reps, you can really faintly see, like his chest is hitting the bar and he's dropping down more rather than coming through as much. So if your chest hits the bar, that then means that the bar's stopping your momentum. Okay, so it's much harder because you drop straight down, and because you're not coming through in front of the bar, there's not that kind of circle that kind of helps you keep the momentum. So you've got to create more momentum from a dead stop. If you chest hits the bar, okay, and then you more or less have to drop straight down. All right, so it's making sure that your chest brushes the bar rather than hits the bar. So this is why you've got to get a little bit more height than the bar, okay, to come down and in front of it. So once we've looked at Philroy, we're going to have a little look at Ella as well. So yeah, you can just see he's hitting his chest and the bar a little bit more on that set. All right, rig's wobbling a bit more, you can tell. And that obviously slows down his rep speed too with his chest hitting the bar. So here's Ella. Ella's super quick at doing butterfly chest to bar pull-ups. You can just see the speed there. So she's like really powerful, kicks through really fast, pulls really fast with her arms as well. So obviously that's super important to do. We're going to go back to Ella in a second. Whereas Philroy's a bit longer, a little bit more flowing when he does his reps. All right. So whereas Philroy could speed up his cycle rate, he's got a little bit wider with his hands potentially. Again, it's just super quick, kick, pop with the hips, and then pull with the arms. It just happens like bang, 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 bang. Okay, it's really, really nice. And obviously, like chest brushes, comes down and through. It's just like how quick she kicks through on each rep as well. This is Philroy actually going real speed now. If we look at Philroy's reps, just to finish off. It's like a slow scooping kip. Whereas Ella's is a bit more like if you're kicking a ball, it's got a little bit more intent about it, which then helps to increase her speed of the reps and why she's one of the reasons why she's so fast at them. Okay, so yeah, a good few things to have a think about and piece together and play around with. First thing to play around with if you can do butterfly chest to bar is just your hand width. Try, if you're doing some of the EMOMs on GST Athlete, try just playing around with the hand grip, seeing if you go wider, how does it affect you? If you go slightly narrower, where do you feel it more? So that's the first thing to play around with. Second thing to make sure is making sure that your chest is brushing the bar, all right? And then the final thing is, like after watching Ella there, can you look to speed up your reps somehow and just have a play around with how quick you can make your reps? And again, how does it feel? Does it feel more fatiguing? Does it feel less fatiguing because you've got less time? You kind of holding onto the bar for less time, so obviously less time under tension there. So yeah, a good few things to play around with. Give them a go and let us know how you get on.